Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty important in government contracting. We're diving into the recent rewrite of the market research part of the Federal Acquisition Regulations. That's FRR Part 10.
Right.
And our goal here is really to understand how these changes are supposed to give government agencies, well, more flexibility, more options when they're researching solutions and, figuring out pricing.
Exactly. And we're basing this on Mick Wakeman's piece in Washington Technology from May 23rd. It's titled Rewrite of Market Research Rules Aims to Give Agencies More Flexibility.
Okay.
So for you listening, this is about getting you up to speed on these regulatory shifts. We'll unpack what's actually new, the potential impact, and, give you some perspective on how federal acquisitions are evolving.
Yeah, whether you're a contractor, you follow the industry, or maybe you're just curious about how taxpayer money gets spent, this should be pretty relevant. Okay, so let's dig in. The article talks about this rewrite as part of a larger, quote, revolutionary FAR overhaul. What's the bigger picture?
Well, yeah, it's important to see this isn't just happening in isolation. As the article mentions, the GSA, the General Services Administration, they've already put out new versions of other FAR parts.
Ah, right.
Yeah, parts 1, 34, and 54 specifically. So this Part 10 update is sort of the next step in this broader effort to modernize, maybe streamline, the federal acquisition rules. GSA is really spearheading this.
Got it. Okay, so the core change, it seems, is about removing prescriptive requirements. What does that actually mean in practice?
That's the heart of it, really. The new FAR Part 10, it moves away from telling agencies exactly which market research steps or techniques they absolutely have to use.
So less of a checklist.
Exactly. Jeffrey Koses, he's GSA's senior procurement executive, he's quoted saying the main aim is just giving acquisition officials more flexibility. So the teams themselves, they now have more autonomy, more freedom to pick the research methods they think actually fit the situation best for whatever they're trying to buy.
Which makes sense. Not everything needs the same approach.
Yeah.
But, with less specific direction, how do agencies figure out the best way forward? Is there a risk it becomes a bit chaotic?
That's a fair question. But no, they're not just leaving them hanging. GSA has put out this thing called a Practitioner Album.
Practitioner Album.
Yeah, think of it as a key resource. It's meant to help guide agencies through this new flexibility. And interestingly, it actually includes the old text that's being removed from Part 10, marked out.
Oh, that's useful. Transparency.
Right, so you can see exactly what's changed. It's designed to help them navigate to conduct effective research, even without the old rigid rules. It's like a before and after guide almost.
Okay. The article gives an example from Koses hosting a reverse industry day or expert panel. That sounds different. What is that? How does it show this new flexibility?
Good example. So a reverse industry day or expert panel, it's basically where the government invites industry experts to come in and share their perspectives.
Oh, flipping it around.
Yeah, exactly. They talk about commercial practices, their experiences, insights. It flips the usual script where the government mostly just asks specific questions.
Yeah.
It's about having a more open conversation earlier on, letting the government really tap into what industry knows, what's innovative out there. So yeah, more listening, gathering broader ideas.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, an important point, sometimes flexibility raises concerns about competition. The article makes sure to state that the rules from the Competition and Contracting Act, CSACI,
Yeah.
they're not changing. That seems critical to mention.
Absolutely crucial, yes. While the how of market research is getting more flexible, the basic requirement to push for competition, that's still fundamental. That hasn't changed. So people concerned about fair opportunity should know that the underlying principle remains, even if the research methods adapt.
Okay, good. Now, this next point caught my eye. The article says every mention of small business requirements in the current stack, Part 10, is marked for deletion. That feels significant. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, that is a really noticeable detail. The article itself doesn't dive deep into the why, but taking out those specific mentions in the market research rules, it could signal a shift.
How so?
Well, one possibility is maybe they intend for small business considerations to be woven throughout the entire acquisition process, not just singled out here. Or maybe it puts more responsibility on agencies to proactively think about small businesses without that explicit prompt in this specific section.
Interesting.
It's definitely something the small business community will be watching closely. They might need to be even more proactive early on.
Makes sense. The document also really pushes for talking with industry early. There's a quote, When early conversations with industry happen, solutions align, proposals improve, awards happen faster, and teams deliver. That's pretty direct.
It is, and it highlights a key idea. Getting industry involved early pays off. For everyone.
Right.
If the government talks to industry early, they get a better feel for what's possible, they can adjust requirements based on real-world feedback, and hopefully get better proposals.
And potentially faster awards, too, it seems.
Yeah, speeds things up and leads to better project outcomes overall. It's about smarter engagement from the start.
So GSA isn't just saying be flexible. They're providing tools too. First, this procurement co-pilot. What is that exactly?
Think of it like a digital helper for the acquisition teams.
Okay.
It seems designed to do a few things. Help them generate better cost estimates, find potential companies faster, and pick the right contract vehicle.
And the pricing thing.
Yeah, apparently it can show what others have paid for similar work. That kind of price transparency could be really valuable.
For both sides, I imagine.
Absolutely. For agencies setting budgets and for industry understanding the landscape, it's available now, the article says, through the acquisition gateway.
Interesting. And then there's Market Research as a Service, MRAS. That sounds new.
It does. MRAS is basically GSA offering direct support. Agencies can bring in MRAS specialists to help with the market research-like work.
Like what kind of help?
Things like planning sources, sought notices, setting up vendor meetings or industry days, handling the responses that come back, even managing the documentation.
So like having extra hands and expertise on demand.
Pretty much. It frees up the agency's own acquisition folks to focus on other things.
Okay, the article also talks quite a bit about improving requests for information, RFIs. They're encouraging industry days and forms-based RFIs. What's wrong with the old way?
Well, according to Kosis and Larry Allen, who's GSA's chief acquisition officer, the big issue with traditional RFIs is you get wildly inconsistent responses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, vendors structure things differently, provide different levels of detail, makes it really hard for the acquisition team to compare apples to apples. You know, it's a heavy lift.
So electronic forms-based RFIs are the answer. How do they help?
That's the idea. By using structured forms, you standardize the information coming in.
Makes sense.
It should cut down the admin work for everyone involved, government and industry. It makes it easier for contracting officers to compare capabilities, spot trends in the market, and focus on the substance, not just the formatting.
The article also flags a mistake. Treating RFIs like draft RFPs, basically. Why is that bad?
Kozias and Allen point out that's just not what RFIs are for, and it puts a huge burden on industry.
Right, asking for too much too early.
Exactly. Companies spend a lot of time and resources responding to something that's meant just for initial information gathering. The push now is for targeted questions about capabilities, about the market itself.
Which should be less work for potential partners.
Yes, less burden on them. And as the article notes, the cost of industry spending tons of time on overly complex RFIs can ultimately get passed back to the government later.
Right, makes sense. Lastly, it sounds like GSA wants agencies to jump right in and start using these new Part 10 approaches now, even while the formal rules are still being finalized. And they want feedback.
That's right. They're encouraging immediate use of this Part 10 deviation. It's a practical approach. Test it in the real world, see what works, what doesn't, and use that feedback to shape the final regulation.
A learn-as-you-go kind of thing.
Exactly. Very dynamic, focused on continuous improvement based on actual experience.
Okay, so let's quickly recap. Big picture. A move toward much more flexibility for agencies in market research.
Supported by that Practitioner Album, new digital tools like the Copilot and MRAS.
Plus, a really strong emphasis on talking to industry early and making RFIs more standardized and less burdensome.
And the hope behind all this. Streamlined processes, getting better solutions, awarding contracts faster, and potentially saving taxpayer money.
Right. So the final thought for you listening is, how might this increased flexibility change the way you interact with the government or the way the government seeks information? What kind of innovative approaches might we see agencies try? And how can businesses position themselves to respond effectively in this evolving landscape?
Yeah, lots of interesting questions about the future of government-industry interactions there. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.